Wade here. Welcome back to the Wade Alters Show. So today what we're going to talk about is a little story. It's going to be a little story time. And what happened is we have a new intern that we just brought on, and he's here locally in Chicago. And as we were getting ready to film next week's video blog, all of a sudden he was just asking, I don't even know how it even came up, and I was telling him the story of how really kind of the biggest turning point in my life, which was when I launched my first product, and how that really was, if I look at everything that happened before then versus everything that happened after then, there's no other point in my life that was a bigger transition. And I think what really it came down to is because we were talking about we're relaunching the baseline pretty soon. And the biggest theme coming into that or coming out of it from the testimonials is going from being stuck to unstuck. I just hear it so consistently of guys saying, I know what I need to do, but I just don't do it, or I just can't get it done. And how the baseline was that thing that finally knocked them over the edge to taking action because of the coaching program that goes along with it. And so I would like to get into my story here that leads to everything of where I'm at today, living in the city that I want to, being around the friends that I want to be around, having a girlfriend who just moved in, things are going great in our relationship. This is all directly related to this product launch. And on top of that, I'm going to tell you a bunch of mistakes that I made along the way that lost me literally over $500,000 in the process. So there's a lot to learn of how to make money, how not to lose money, and how you need to take action and how to build the leverage and all the things that go into that related to going from stuck to unstuck. So I'm just going to roll on the story in, just whatever fashion it comes out here. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun. So if I'm going to do this properly, I have to kind of frame where I was coming up before the idea of the launch happened. And so this was probably, let's say 2009-ish, somewhere in that range. I had been teaching the dating programs for a few years, and it was a lot of fun until the magic kind of wore off. And so if you don't know about how these things went, they were in the best cities around the world. So I did it in 42 different countries, and it was everywhere from Berlin to Tokyo to Las Vegas. So they were great cities. And that at the start, that's amazing. There's all these cities I've never been to. I'm getting paid to go travel around the world. That was awesome. But after a couple of years of that, I always said it felt like I was a journeyman baseball player, where every city, yes, you're in the major leagues, but every year you're in a different city and you're moving around and you're living your life out of a suitcase. And the other thing is these seminars were every weekend. And so people were getting married. I was missing weddings. I was missing bachelor parties. And it was basically this weird sort of conflict where I either had to choose my friends or thinking, how much are my friends worth to me? Are they worth losing a few $1,000s? Because I have to, basically, if I give up 2 days, I give up the whole week for my pay. And so I needed to do something needed to change. And I didn't know what that was. And so the place that I started, this was at the time where SEO was really starting to take off. And it was all about getting someone in India or the Philippines to create backlinks for your websites. And you have 100 different websites. They're each making $1 a day, and all of a sudden you can make $100 a day. And so for me at the time, I was just like, I don't want to work every weekend. If I only had to work twice a month, that would just be a great starting point. And so I did that, and it was really this is sort of, nowadays it's like Amazon books, and you make a couple dollars per book, and you try to scale it. It's just a short-term arbitrage thing that works for a little while. It's not passive income, although this was my first real foray into business. And so what really came out of that, one, I got up to the $100 a day, and I'm like, oh my God, multiply this by 12 months, and I'm doing amazing here. I can quit my job pretty soon. And then lo and behold, what happens? All of a sudden that hack goes away and you lose your income source, and you're usually investing ahead of schedule, leading to me probably losing a good 8 to 10 grand through that process there. The good things that came out of it was, one, I learned web design because I had to do 150 different little baby websites. And secondly, I created the blog, and that was the blog that I put out all my coaching content at the time. And I was really trying to scale that out, get as many people to check it out. We had hundreds of thousands of visitors every month. And it was really cool. That was just my first sort of experience of building a brand online. And although at the time I didn't know how to launch products or create products or how I was going to monetize this, at least I was getting my content out there more. And so guys that would come to my seminars, my brand was building. And I thought, okay, cool. At least I'm getting this out of it. I'm probably getting a few more coaching clients through this process. But still, as the months went by, as the years went by, and the SEO thing collapsed in my first little business collapsed. I actually still have, the name of the company was Exemptech. And because it was like being exempt from like the 9-to-5 rat race, or I don't know, just making some shit up. It's your first business, right? But I still have actually the sheet that says your business is defunct. It's kind of a good little reminder there. Going to get a nice frame for it as a reminder of what entrepreneurship really is. And so as everything was crumbling around me there, I thought, okay, the next step, it's not through this weird like arbitrage where I get $1 a day. The best website that I had at the time was some like drug testing website, purely because the search terms were available through Google search and stuff like that. I had no sort of experience, anything related to that. And I'm thinking, okay, I got to learn how to create products. And so I was talking with a guy who was traveling with me at the time, who was a really successful internet marketer. He's like, dude, you don't know anything about that. Why don't you create a product for the dating niche? You have hundreds of thousands of visitors. You could totally do this. Like, this is where you start. And I was completely oblivious to it at the moment, but I thought, he's totally right here. Like, I should do something like this. And so this gets into kind of the first stage of where I see a lot of people at, is that you kind of have this idea, you kind of know what it is, it even falls into your lap a little bit, and you know what you need to do. You're waiting for someone to give you permission. And so I went to the business that I was kind of getting my leads from and everything, and I kind of brought the idea up, and they were not receptive of it at all. On top of that, I didn't know the step-by-step of how do I launch. I didn't understand what copywriting was. I didn't know what I would put inside this product. And so what it led to is, instead of me getting started on this launch, is I just wallowed around in kind of sadness. And as things continued to get worse at my main job, as I got less and less passionate about it, and every week it was just slapping me in the face of, why are you doing this? Why are you doing this? I'm getting a day older, and another weekend goes by that I lost. Another chance where maybe I meet a girl and I'd love to date her, but I'm off to another city after that. Another friend is having a bachelor party or a happy birthday event, and all of a sudden that birthday party, boop, I can't do it because I'm off in South America or something like that. And part of you would say, oh man, you're in South America? That sounds awesome. Again, it is if it's at your choice, but if you're forced to do it, it's totally not fun at all. It's like a totally different sort of thing. And so it really hit the head between kind of like 29 and 30, really on my 30th birthday. And it was just kind of a weird circumstance where I just come back from a long trip. I wasn't doing as many of the programs, the seminars. So I was basically broke, and I'm going to my parents' house, and I'm living in the basement at 30 years old. And even though I had done all this traveling, even though I had a nice brand online, I just was looking at my bank account with all this credit card debt and going, oh my God, you're 30 years old. You live in your damn parents' basement, but I don't know what to do. And like I said, I had the idea of the product, but when I asked people if I could do it, they said no. And so I felt completely out of control. I felt completely just stuck in this like purgatory where there was no path ahead. It was just cloudy. I couldn't see at all what the future was. And I remember very specifically what happened was I talked to a mentor. And so this is one of those things. If guys ask, what is one of the ways to kind of get out from being stuck? It's like, if you have someone that has success, that puts some faith into you, or just kicks you in the ass to say, quit being a little bitch and get started. That was one of the biggest things for me, especially starting the business too, was having people saying, hey man, like, I know you're smart, you're a hard worker. It sounds like a good idea. It's going to be a success. You just got to put your nose to the grindstone and get back to work. And what happened was I was wallowing in this sort of dark, cloudy, sort of ambiguous, like my life is just, I'm floating on a cloud here, not knowing what to do, and it's just gonna be more of the same for forever because I just can't see any path ahead. I don't see any connection from where I am today to where I gotta go. And as I said, luckily I had this mentor who was in the real estate industry. And what he was talking about was related to city planning and city government officials and things like that. And really, from that perspective, he had no control. And in the area, Cook County, Illinois here, it's so weird, like mafia sort of tendencies and stuff. And he said, you know what? I can't control that. I can control if they're going to say yes or they're going to say no. But what I can do is have the damn product ready. So if they do say yes, I'm prepared and I'm ready to rock. What I'm not going to do is just sit around and wait. So I'm going to go ahead and do what I can do here and just hope it goes right. If it doesn't, I'll learn from it, but I got to be ready for when that time comes. And that really resonated with me because I had an opportunity here where I was working for a business or kind of contracting for this business, and there was all these fans and I had this fan base. And even though they were like, no, you can't do this, if the product was there and it was ready and they saw what it was and it was this turnkey thing, I thought, okay, this is a chance. If not, at least I'm learning how to do this so I can do it on my own down the road. I got to do this. And so that's what happened. And basically the way that it worked out, the first product, it was called Evolutions. If you're in my syndicate, I still got a lot of the content actually inside there, which is kind of embarrassing. I need to update it for sure. And so what I didn't know anyone that had ever created a product before. I went on YouTube and saw how to set up the camera. What is a good 3-point lighting system? I didn't know it was called the 3-point lighting system. Bought some lights off of Amazon, set up a black backdrop, and did this shit in my parents' basement. I literally set the thing up, and it was to the point where I had to do it after midnight, after they went to sleep, so I wasn't embarrassed about yelling at a camera in the basement. Sometimes they'd be hammering on the floor, and I even after it was all said and done, I was like, oh, it's great that you guys didn't really hear that. And they're like, we totally did through the heating duct vent, but we put a pillow over it. Like, having these amazing, loving parents, like I'm so happy to have the parents that I have, which, like I said, was a little embarrassing. And then other times having to turn the heater off because halfway through me speaking, all of a sudden the heating ventilation fan would go on. And so I built this thing literally in my parents' basement, not knowing what would happen. And after I did it, realizing that the product, as I finished the product, it was completely boring. And so I started taking improv classes in Second City, driving from Milwaukee to Chicago, which was a 2-hour drive, to become more charismatic, more dynamic, re-recording the thing all over again, and not even knowing what I'm going to do with it. Because like I said, I didn't know if I could release it, first and foremost. And two, I didn't know how to market it. I was like, maybe I'll just throw it up on the blog or something like that, or send it out in some sort of email or something like that. So there we go. All of a sudden I got the product done. That's the first stage here. And where most people say is like, yeah, cool, now you get the product done. It just got out, right? The answer is no. Because what I did next is then I sent an email off. I remember sending this email off to the founders of this company. And I was like, hey, I got this product. Check out, I made a cool little image. So I myself learning graphic design, created the logo for this product, created this sort of animation thing to go in with little noises underneath for the videos of the product, and sent them an email saying, hey, here's the product that I got. I think it's going to be really awesome. Here's what my game plan is. No response. Didn't even get a response to that email. And this was like 3 to 4 months of recording, re-recording beforehand, all the research I was doing to set this thing up, outlining the course, learning the graphic design, learning the video editing, doing all the video editing, and that taking infinitely longer than it should have. All those things, no response. So, okay, just get the damn product out, right? Do it, finish it. I did it. In about a month or two after that, we had an event where I met them in person, and I said, hey, do you guys just have a little time I can set aside? And I remember this very well too, because I was wearing this 3-piece suit because I was getting ready to go out. We were in Las Vegas. And so I have the 2 founders there and the COO, and I'm like pitching them the shit. And I've never pitched anything. I've never sold anything before, and I'm pitching them this product. I'm like, this product, it's going to be amazing. It's going to be doing it. And the reason they didn't want to put it out was because they hadn't released a product in over 5 years. Because of torrenting and Pirate Bay and things like that. So they thought the products were done. You couldn't even do products anymore because people would just torrent it and download it illegally. But somehow, luckily, I think it was just out of desperation, I was able to talk them into it. And they decided that, yes, I could launch that product in 4 months. So there it was, finished in August, and I had till December to launch it, which at the end of the day, at the time I was like, I need money now. I'm broke. I'm living in my parents' basement, and I don't want to do these weekend programs anymore. But in the end, it was actually a godsend, because what happened was I reached out through just my email list or my blog and asked if there was any marketers out there that could kind of help me out. And I had a guy who completely took me under his wing and did all the copywriting. He was a professional copywriter, showed me how to launch a product, did it all for free just because he loved all the content I was putting out. So lesson learned there. The idea of reciprocity, just start putting stuff out there. Don't worry about the monetization. Just put great shit out, and people will want to help you out. They'll want to buy your products. They'll want to get your coaching and things like that. At the first step there, you got to just give, and have the abundance mindset. And so then it was a few months of us developing what the marketing method was going to be, writing the sales copy. And I remember I was traveling at the time. So I was traveling through China, Japan, and Australia for about 2 months when I was doing all the marketing materials for this product. And so this led into the first giant mistake. Probably still, actually, as I was thinking about this, I have an even bigger mistake that I didn't think of literally till today, and kind of slapped myself in the face related to this $500,000 mistake. So I guess, do I say what happened the good first? We'll just go right into the bad. I don't care. I got no ego in any of this shit. What happened is this guy was like, dude, you got to charge more for this product. And so I didn't know what to do. I had never created a product before. I look over on sites like ClickBank and stuff like that, and I modeled a product that was $69. And I thought, hey, this product seems to be selling pretty well. I'm looking at the scores and learning some things from my SEO days. Is that it seems like, the gravity score of this thing on ClickBank means that it's selling a lot, and they're charging $69. We're going to do the same. And then on the back end, they charge $47. So I guess we'll do the same. And the big lesson that I learned from this is that you got to watch what you're modeling. Because what I didn't realize at the time, what I didn't know about marketing, is that yes, they were charging $69, but they were actually losing money on that initial sale because of how they had their back end set up and ascending them up into higher and higher ticket sort of items. I didn't have any higher ticket items. So I was doing all the front end, hoping that that's where the sort of reward would come from. And that was, let's just say, a huge mistake. Because that, ended up, what happened is through the learning lessons I had there, I sold about 1,000 units of this product at $69. So you can do the math. That's about 70 grand right there on the front end, not including some upsells and a monthly membership that I had with it. All in all, it was a good low 6-figure product launch coming off of this. Having never done anything like this before, that is a massive, massive success. But what I quickly learned after the fact is that I could easily have charged more than twice as much and, a lot more. And so what happened was, because of the huge success of this product launch, the company ended up having other instructors in the business launch products too. And the first thing that I said is charge more. At minimum $197, probably more like $297. And this is when I was throwing out, there's a couple different tiered packages you can go with. And the same thing happened on the next launch, where it was again about 1,000 units, but about $300 instead of $70. So right there, it was a mixture of two things. One, it really came down to self-worth. I didn't believe in myself. I didn't have the confidence that I could charge something like that, even though I had been having guys for 4 or 5 years spending $2,000 for the same sort of information. So a lot of times, people, they just don't ask what their worth is. And that was the biggest mistake that I made through this process. Part 2 of this, which is even crazier, is that when I was launching this, I remember I was in Beijing, China. Stupid idea, because I couldn't even do launch videos on YouTube because YouTube wasn't even working there. So it's just headache after headache. And about a month ahead of time, a programmer is helping me set up the shopping cart integration and things like that. And this is way before shopping carts are just now they're plug and play. You got a merchant account easily. All that stuff is just taken care of with the push of a button. There's no even screening process or application process. At the time, we had huge levels of programming involved, of integrating the membership site with the shopping cart, with the payment processing and all that stuff. And we also had an upsell. And so I had PayPal set up, but we didn't set up the recurring payments on the upsell through that process. And even the initial payment setup, what happened is we're launching in about an hour. Maybe it's about 3 or 4 hours beforehand, I think is when this happened. And so it's like 2 a.m. in China, 2 p.m. or something like that in LA. And the programmer gets on and he's just like, okay, let me just do one final test. It didn't work. So he tested the payment process, the checkout, and it wasn't integrating properly. And what happened is a couple hours goes by. The guy who created this hard-coded, this whole programming setup of the shopping cart, who's like $1,000 an hour, he's on the phone too. We're all on Skype. I'm in China. It's 4 or 5 in the morning. They're over there trying to fix the shit. I'm completely powerless to try to fix the shit. I don't even know what's going on. And so all of a sudden, what happens is the product launches, the emails go out, and luckily what happened is this the old days where all of a sudden you'd have the video and the buy button would be there? We had thousands of people on this buy page, and the buy button wasn't available yet. Luckily, it wasn't, because if you'd click on it, it wouldn't have worked. And so literally with 5 minutes to spare, you can't even make up this like movie story scenario of all of us sitting on Skype for 6 hours, figuring shit out. We finally get it figured out. Boom, the buy button goes, and all of a sudden hundreds of dudes come into this program. But even with it out set up, I had to manually take every single person, this is 1,000 people, and add them to this WordPress member site. And at the time, I'm like, you know what, this is cool because every single guy is a new customer. So I was excited about that. But what I didn't realize is that the upsell wasn't working properly. The membership site part wasn't working. So while this is launching, through this launch, all of a sudden I'm yelling at them again. And after they have just worked for 8 hours to get the first part set up, now we're trying to figure out the back end of the monthly membership thing. And so we ended up probably with a few hundred guys in this at $50 a month. That's a pretty nice recurring income coming in here, and that happened pretty much. Our retention was like 10 to 12 months. So basically for a full year, if you add that up, that's pretty nice. But I'll just tell you, I guess, a little inside baseball here on the numbers that we have now. We got like at most 30% ended up jumping onto the membership. Nowadays, what we do with the syndicate and stuff like that, giving people a trial and everything, they love it so much. We have like an 85% retention rate, which is just insane. So that means literally instead of 300 dudes, we would have had 800 dudes go into something like that, which is like, you multiply that by 50, that's like 400 grand in a year or something like that. So if you have 400 grand plus another 200 or 300 grand from all these mistakes, big learning lesson here that hopefully you can take away is don't do it the way that I did it. Offer a trial, have it go in really nicely into the membership there, and charge what you're worth. That's the other thing, charge what you're worth. And so those are kind of like the big lessons jumping into. And what I really want to go meta with this, the takeaway from all this is like, you might look at this after the fact and say, man, I wish I had a business like that, or I wish I could launch a product, without realizing how many challenges and hurdles and things get in the way. And a lot of times, too often, what people do is they're sitting on the sidelines waiting for someone to hold their hand through the process, waiting to have no mistakes, that no fail attitude. And entrepreneurship, it doesn't work like that. That's why, I love that one quote where it's like entrepreneurship, it's just being slapped in the face or punched in the face every single day, is because that's what happens is you have a new problem, a new issue every single day. And it's your ability to solve the problem and keep moving forward. So that you got to start doing that now and start taking that action now. It's not about like somebody's going to get you unstuck or pull you out. I'm here to help, but you just got to kind of jump into the deep end. So that's the first part of it. Another part that creates the motivation though is what's possible. So on the one hand, for me, really what had happened is like I'm turning 30. I'm in my parents' basement. The pain was just so strong. I had to do whatever it took to get out of that. But on the other side, let's get into a couple positive motivators. What's actually possible? And for me, because of that launch, that's what gave me the resources to move to Chicago, get a great apartment right downtown. The one goal I always had was I want to walk outside and have people moving about. So I feel like I'm in the hustle and the bustle, people traveling to a place where I actually live full time. And so I got that. I live in one of the best parts of Chicago, having a great floor to ceiling window view. And then what was crazy with it too, if we want to talk about turning points, is that first day that I moved in, literally that first night, I didn't even have my couch or anything in here yet. I didn't even have a bed, was the night that I met my girlfriend, who here we are 4 years later living together. And so that happened all because of this too, because I finally met a girl, and was able to move it forward and move that relationship along and not be like, oh, sorry, I'm gone into another city or another country. Won't see you for 3 months. And so that changed everything too. And it finally gave me the confidence of me seeing, okay, I know how to launch a product here. I can do this on my own. I can do this in a new niche. And so moving out of just teaching dating advice into the peer self-development, life coaching, lifestyle development, that was the thing that gave me the confidence. And I immediately jumped into that. I immediately started getting coaching clients and doing that, and having the self-trust of learning it in the first step led to all of a sudden all the new things happening and the growth of this business and using my real name and having it continue to evolve to this day. It all stemmed from that place of stuck. It all stems from that place of, I don't know what to do. I have no control over the situation. The future is cloudy. I don't see how where I'm at today can get to be where I want to go. And what it all came down to was just, taking action, getting started, getting the damn product out and rolling with the punches, seeing what happens along the way. And what I've realized after working with so many clients is that this really is an inner game thing. This really is focusing on the subconscious. How do you reframe it so that you don't just get complacent? You don't just settle for the average. You don't settle for mediocrity. You see how bad things are if you don't change now, and then show you what's possible. And so I wanted to show you a little bit about how I've gotten to where I'm at today, but even more importantly, what is even possible. Like I could have had 10x the sort of success if I would have had somebody who could have helped me make the mistakes that I did. So I'm hoping some of the mistakes that I made here and told you about, you can use those in your own life so you don't make the same. And then if you're feeling in that place of stuck, I think this is really going to be a theme over the next couple of weeks because I'm just so immersed in it as we're upgrading the baseline and everything like that. I really want to help you get unstuck. And I hope you enjoyed my little story, kind of get a little background of what led to today. As always, enjoy.